The deception of emotional weakness is a subtle, insidious force that can grip a life and hold it captive. It's not about being sensitive, for sensitivity can be a gift, a conduit for compassion and understanding. No, emotional weakness is a surrender, a capitulation to the fleeting whims of feeling, allowing them to dictate your direction, your decisions, and ultimately your destiny. It manifests in 1,000 different ways, each one a chain binding you tighter to a life less than what you were created for. You see it in the indecision that paralyzes, the fear that whispers lies and keeps you from stepping out, the anger that flares and burns bridges, the resentment that festers and poisons the soul, and the victimhood that absolves responsibility and stifles growth. A constant draining battle against an unseen enemy, an enemy that resides within, fed by every unchallenged emotion and every unexamined thought. This isn't a theoretical discussion. This is the reality for far too many, a reality where potential remains untapped, where dreams wither on the vine, and where the abundant life promised is replaced by a meager existence. The cost is immeasurable: missed opportunities that never return, broken relationships that leave scars, and a spiritual stagnation that starves the soul. It's a slow erosion, a gradual decay, often disguised as empathy, as caution, as simply being human. But I tell you, there's a difference between human emotion and emotional weakness. One is a part of the design, the other is a deviation, a distortion that keeps you from living in the fullness of your calling. It's time to recognize this deception for what it is, to pull back the veil and see the enemy clearly, not as some external force, but as a stronghold built within your own heart and mind. This weakness doesn't just appear overnight. It's cultivated, nurtured by every excuse, every avoidance, every time you allow a feeling to become a master instead of a messenger. It's the quiet compromise, the small retreat, the subtle shift that over time leads to a profound loss of inner fortitude. How often has the fear of what others might think kept you from pursuing what you know is right? How many relationships have been strained or broken because you couldn't control your temper, or because you harbored bitterness that refused to yield? These are not isolated incidents. They are symptoms of a deeper issue, a fundamental flaw in the way you've chosen to engage with your own emotional landscape. The world around you will tell you to feel your feelings, to embrace your emotions, and there's a measure of truth in that. But there's a critical distinction between acknowledging your emotions and being enslaved by them. Emotional weakness is when your feelings become your master, when they dictate your actions, when they define your identity. It's when you allow the shifting sands of your inner world to determine the stability of your outer life. This is a deception, a lie that keeps you from the strength and peace that are rightfully yours. It's time to stop living under its shadow. It's time to break free. This is not about suppressing what you feel. It's about discerning what is true, what is right, and what will lead you to a life of purpose and power. It's about taking back control, not from others, but from the very emotions that seek to control you. The path to strength begins with this recognition, this honest assessment of where you truly stand. And if the answer is not what you desire, then know this: there is a way out, a path to genuine, unshakable strength. It is not a stoic indifference to the trials of life, but a profound anchoring in truths that transcend the shifting tides of circumstance. When we speak of emotional strength, we are not talking about a cold, unfeeling heart, but a heart that is so deeply rooted in something greater than itself that it cannot be swayed by every passing storm. This strength, this inner fortitude, does not originate within ourselves in some reservoir of personal willpower. No, that will eventually run dry. The true source of this strength, the wellspring from which all genuine resilience flows, is a deep-rooted faith and an understanding of unchanging eternal truth. Think of the great figures of old, those whose lives stand as testaments to unwavering resolve in the face of overwhelming emotional pressure. What kept him from succumbing to bitterness, despair, or rage? It was not his own inherent emotional toughness, but his unwavering faith in the divine plan, his understanding that a higher hand was at work, even in the darkest of moments. He anchored himself in the truth of a sovereign God, and that truth became his bedrock. Or look at David, pursued relentlessly by a jealous king, living as a fugitive, facing constant threats and the emotional toll of betrayal. Yet in his Psalms we find not only expressions of profound sorrow and fear, but also declarations of absolute trust and hope. His strength was not in his own might, but in his reliance on the Almighty, in his conviction that his refuge was in the Most High. These were not men devoid of emotion. They felt the sting of injustice, the pangs of loneliness, the weight of fear. But their emotions did not define them. Their faith did. Their understanding of eternal principles provided the framework within which their emotions were processed, not suppressed, but directed and ultimately overcome. The world will tell you to find strength within yourself, to tap into your own inner power. And while there is a measure of truth in self-discipline and personal growth, it is a limited truth. The strength that endures, the strength that truly fortifies the soul against the onslaught of emotional weakness, is found in anchoring yourself in something infinitely greater than your own finite capacity. It is found in the timeless wisdom, the unwavering promises, and the unfailing character of the one who created you. It is the conscious decision to align your heart and mind with the eternal, to trust in a plan that extends beyond your immediate understanding, and to rest in a power that is limitless. When you do this, when you truly anchor yourself in these unchanging truths, your emotional landscape begins to transform. The anxieties that once consumed you lose their grip. The anger that once flared uncontrollably finds itself subdued by a deeper peace. This is not a magic formula, it is a spiritual principle. It requires intentionality, a daily turning of your heart and mind towards the source of all strength. It means immersing yourself in the wisdom that has guided generations, allowing its principles to shape your perspective and inform your responses. It means cultivating a relationship with the divine, a relationship that provides an inexhaustible supply of peace, patience, and perseverance. When you are anchored in this way, you are not merely reacting to life. You are responding from a place of deep, abiding strength. Your emotions become indicators, not dictators. This is the foundation of true emotional fortitude, a strength that is not dependent on circumstances, but on an unshakable conviction in the eternal. It is a strength that will carry you through every trial, every setback, and every challenge, enabling you to stand firm when others falter and to find peace in the midst of the storm. This is the strength you were meant to possess. This is the strength that awaits you when you choose to build your life on the solid rock of unchanging truth. These aren't just random thoughts, they are deeply ingrained beliefs, often formed in childhood or through painful experiences that tell you, I'm not good enough, I can't handle this, it's too hard, or I'll never change. These lies are the fertile ground in which emotional weakness flourishes. You see, the enemy of your soul doesn't need to physically restrain you if he can convince you that you are incapable, unworthy, or destined for failure. The battle for emotional strength is at its core a battle for the mind. Your thoughts are not just fleeting impulses. They are the architects of your reality, what you dwell on, what you believe, what you allow to take root in the garden of your mind that will ultimately determine your emotional landscape. If you constantly tell yourself you are weak, you will act weak. If you believe you are a victim, you will live like one. The power of truth, however, is that it dismantles these lies. It exposes them for the empty, powerless deceptions they are. Just as light dispels darkness, truth dispels falsehood. But this isn't a passive process. You don't just wait for truth to appear. You actively seek it, you embrace it, and you wield it as a weapon against the lies. How do you do this? First, you must identify the lie. What are those recurring negative thoughts that undermine your confidence, that fuel your anxiety, that tempt you to give up? Be honest with yourself. Write them down if you must. Give them a name. Once identified, you then bring them before the unwavering standard of truth. For instance, if the lie whispers, I'm not good enough, the truth declares, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. You are uniquely gifted and purposed. If the lie insists, I can't handle this, the truth reminds you, you are capable of far more than you imagine, especially when you lean on a strength greater than your own. This is not mere positive thinking, it is truth-based. It is aligning your inner dialogue with the reality of who you are and whose you are. The mind is a battlefield and every thought is a skirmish. You have the power to choose which thoughts you entertain and which you cast down. This requires vigilance. It requires a conscious effort to guard the gates of your mind. When a negative thought, a lie, attempts to enter, you don't just let it wander in and set up camp. You challenge it. You question its validity. You confront it with the truth. This is an active, ongoing process. It's like weeding a garden. If you neglect it, the weeds will choke out the good plants. Similarly, if you neglect your thought life, the lies will choke out the truth and leave you emotionally barren. Practical steps to challenge negative self-talk involve a deliberate redirect. When you catch yourself entertaining a lie, immediately replace it with the truth. Speak it aloud if necessary. Meditate on it. Immerse yourself in sources of truth that reinforce your inherent worth and potential. This could be through scripture, through uplifting literature, through wise counsel or through intentional reflection on past victories. Remember, your feelings often follow your thoughts. If you change your thoughts, you can change your feelings. This is not to say that emotions are irrelevant, but rather that they are often a byproduct of what you believe. If you believe a lie, you will feel the corresponding negative emotion. If you embrace the truth, you will experience the peace and strength that truth brings. This is the path to emotional liberation. It is the journey from being a slave to your feelings to becoming a master of your thoughts. It is a journey that requires courage, persistence, and an unwavering commitment to truth. But the reward is immeasurable: a mind renewed, a spirit fortified, and an emotional life that serves your purpose rather than sabotaging it. Don't let the lies define you any longer. Rise up, claim the truth, and watch as your emotional weakness begins to crumble, replaced by an unshakable inner strength that will carry you through anything. Emotional strength, my friends, is not a gift bestowed upon a select few. It is a muscle actively cultivated through consistent, unwavering discipline. It is not passive. It is a deliberate, daily choice to build resilience brick by brick through the habits you embrace and the actions you take. This is where the rubber meets the road. It's one thing to understand the deception of weakness and the power of truth. It's another to live it out, to put those principles into practice when the pressure is on. We touched on this when discussing the lies we believe, but it bears repeating and expanding. Your mind is a garden, and you are the gardener. What you allow to grow there will determine the harvest. This means guarding what you allow into your mind. Be discerning about what you read, what you watch, what you listen to, and who you associate with. Just as you wouldn't intentionally consume poison, why would you allow toxic thoughts, negative influences, or fear-mongering narratives to take root in your mind? Actively feed your mind with truth, with hope, with inspiration. Meditate on things that are pure, lovely, and of good report. This isn't about burying your head in the sand. It's about strategically fortifying your inner world against the constant barrage of negativity that seeks to undermine your emotional stability. The second discipline is the discipline of action. Emotional weakness often manifests as paralysis and inability to move forward when fear or doubt is present. But true strength is found in taking steps, even small ones, in the face of discomfort. When you feel the urge to retreat, to procrastinate, to avoid, that is precisely when you must lean into the discipline of action. Do the thing you fear. Take the uncomfortable step. Speak the difficult truth. Each act of courage, no matter how small, builds a deposit in your emotional strength account. It proves to yourself that you are capable, that you are not defined by your feelings, and that you can indeed overcome. This is how resilience is forged, not in comfort, but in the crucible of challenge. The third discipline is the discipline of response. Life will throw curveballs. People will disappoint you. Circumstances will arise that are beyond your control. Emotional weakness reacts impulsively, lashes out in anger, retreats in self-pity, or crumbles under pressure. Emotional strength, however, chooses its response. It pauses, it reflects, it seeks wisdom. It refuses to be swept away by the immediate tide of emotion. This is about self-control, not suppression. It's about recognizing that while you may not control what happens to you, you absolutely control how you respond to it. And in that choice lies immense power. When someone offends you, do you immediately retaliate, or do you choose forgiveness? When a setback occurs, do you descend into despair, or do you seek the lesson and find a new path forward? Your response is your power. It is the ultimate indicator of your emotional maturity and strength. The role of consistent habits in fortifying emotional fortitude cannot be overstated. Just as an athlete trains daily to build physical strength, you must engage in daily practices to build emotional strength. This includes consistent time in reflection, prayer, and study of timeless truths. It means intentionally practicing gratitude even in difficult circumstances. It means cultivating healthy relationships that uplift and encourage you. It means setting boundaries that protect your emotional well-being. These are not optional extras. They are essential components of a life lived with emotional power. They are the daily workouts that build the inner muscle you need to navigate the complexities of life with grace and resilience. Don't wait until a crisis hits. to start building this strength. Begin today. Start with small, consistent disciplines. Guard your thoughts. Take courageous action. Choose your responses wisely. And watch as the foundation of your emotional life becomes unshakable, enabling you to stand firm, to thrive, and to fulfill the purpose for which you were created. One of the most profound shackles that binds us to emotional weakness is the burden of unforgiveness and bitterness. These are not merely unpleasant feelings, they are corrosive agents that eat away at the soul, preventing true freedom and inner peace. When you cling to resentment, when you refuse to release those who have wronged you, or even when you hold on to self-condemnation for your own past mistakes, you are not punishing the other person, you are imprisoning yourself. It's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. The weight of unforgiveness is immense, a constant drain on your emotional and spiritual energy. It keeps you tethered to the past, replaying hurts and grievances, preventing you from moving forward into the abundant life that awaits you. This is not a call to condone wrong actions or to forget injustices. It is a call to liberate yourself from the emotional bondage that unforgiveness creates. The liberating power of extending forgiveness both to others and to ourselves is one of the most transformative available to us. Forgiveness is not about excusing the behavior of another. It is about choosing to release the debt they owe you, and in doing so, releasing yourself from the emotional burden carrying that debt. It is a conscious act of the will, often preceding the feeling. You may not feel like forgiving, but when you choose to forgive, the feelings will eventually follow. This act of release is not for their benefit alone. It is primarily for yours. It frees up emotional space, allowing healing and peace to enter where bitterness once resided. Consider the immense peace that comes from letting go of past hurts. So many live in the shadow of yesterday, allowing old wounds to dictate today's reactions and tomorrow's possibilities. But when you choose to forgive, you sever that connection. You declare that the past will no longer hold you captive. You reclaim your emotional sovereignty. This also applies to self-forgiveness. We are often our own harshest critics, holding ourselves to impossible standards and condemning ourselves for every misstep. This self-condemnation is just as damaging as unforgiveness towards others, if not more so. It feeds shame, guilt, and a pervasive sense of unworthiness, all of which are hallmarks of emotional weakness. Acknowledge your mistakes, learn from them, and then choose to forgive yourself. Release the need for perfection and embrace the journey of growth. Furthermore, emotional strength is deeply intertwined with releasing the need for control. So much of our anxiety and emotional turmoil stems from a desperate attempt to control circumstances, outcomes, and even other people. When we try to manipulate and control what is beyond our sphere of influence, we set ourselves up for constant frustration and emotional exhaustion. True strength lies in trusting in a higher plan, in surrendering what you cannot control to a power that can. This is not a passive resignation, it is an active trust. It is the understanding that there is a divine order, a purpose unfolding, even when you cannot see the full picture. When you release the need to control, you open yourself up to a profound sense, the anxieties about the future, the worries about what might go wrong, the fear of the unknown. These begin to dissipate when you place your trust in a wisdom far greater than your own. This trust allows you to navigate uncertainty with a calm assurance, knowing that you are not alone and that even in the midst of chaos, there is an underlying order. The peace that comes from letting go of past hurts and anxieties about the future is a hallmark of emotional maturity. It is a peace that transcends understanding, a peace that guards your heart and mind. It is the peace that allows you to sleep soundly at night, knowing that you have done your part and the rest is in capable hands. This liberation from the burdens of unforgiveness and the illusion of control is not merely a pleasant feeling, it is a powerful catalyst for emotional strength. It clears the path for you to live more fully, more freely, and more purposefully. It is a testament to the fact that true strength is not about holding on tightly, but about knowing when and how to let go. It is the foundation upon which you can truly live a life of purpose and impact, unhindered by the internal turmoil that so often derails even the best intention. When you are emotionally fortified, you are free to pursue your calling, to step into the destiny for which you were created without being constantly sidetracked or defeated by setbacks, criticisms, or the inevitable challenges that arise. The connection between emotional fortitude and making a meaningful impact is undeniable. How can you pour into others? How can you lead? How can you innovate if your own inner world is in constant chaos? A life of purpose demands stability, resilience, and an unwavering focus that emotional weakness simply cannot sustain. When you are strong within, you become a beacon, a source of strength and inspiration for those around you. You are able to give freely, to serve wholeheartedly, and to contribute meaningfully because you are not constantly battling your own internal demons. This strength allows you to overcome the fear of failure, a pervasive enemy that keeps so many from even attempting to reach their full potential. Emotional weakness whispers, "What if you fall? What if you're rejected?" But emotional strength, rooted in truth and discipline, declares, "Even if I fall, I will rise again. My worth is not determined by my performance, and every experience is a lesson." It frees you from the paralyzing grip of perfectionism and the need for external validation. So many chase approval, allowing the opinions of others to dictate their choices and define their self-worth. This is a fragile existence, built on shifting sand. True emotional strength means your identity is secure, not in what others think of you, but in who you are and whose you are. It means you are driven by an inner conviction, not by the applause or criticism of the crowd. The joy and fulfillment found in living a life aligned with unwavering principles is the ultimate reward of cultivating emotional strength. This isn't about fleeting happiness, but a deep, abiding sense of peace and contentment that comes from knowing you are living authentically in accordance with the truths you hold dear. When your actions are consistent with your values, when your inner world is congruent with your outer expression, there is a profound sense of integrity and wholeness. This is the abundant life, not defined by material possessions or external accolades, but by the richness of your character and the depth of your impact. It is a life lived with courage, with conviction, and with an unshakable sense of purpose. So I urge you, stop being emotionally weak, not because it's easy, but because it's necessary. Necessary for your own well-being, necessary for your relationships, and necessary for you to fulfill the unique purpose for which you were placed on this earth. It's a journey, not a destination, but every step you take towards greater emotional strength is a step towards a life of profound meaning, lasting joy, and undeniable impact. Embrace the discipline, confront the lies, release the burdens, and step into the powerful, purposeful life you were always meant to live. The choice is yours. The time is now. Rise up and claim your strength.